Maya Carter hadn't planned to come back. But when the hospital called to say her father had collapsed at work, she boarded the earliest train out of Chicago. The silence in her childhood home hit her first, thick, untouched, like grief that had never found its words. She hadn't lived here in almost 6 years, but nothing had changed. Not the outdated wallpaper. Not the hush between her parents. Not the cold edge in her father's voice when he greeted her. "Didn't think you'd actually come," he muttered from his recliner. His leg, stiff in a brace, stretched over the ottoman. Maya bit her tongue. She had come, hadn't she? Olivia, her mother, gave her a thin smile and returned to stirring soup on the stove. "He's been stubborn," she said lightly. Still trying to walk without the brace. Maya forced a nod, unsure what to do with the sharp awkwardness that hovered in the air. She remembered this tension. It had always existed in their house, not loud, just ever-present, like a low hum behind closed doors. She had buried it back then. Now it came crawling back, familiar and unwelcome. Later that evening, she video-called Eric. He looked tired, red-eyed, but smiled when he saw her. "You settling in okay?" "Trying to," Maya replied. "Dad's grumpier than I remember. Mom's distracted." He chuckled. "That house does things to people." Something in his voice gave her pause. But she dismissed it. He was probably just exhausted. The end-of-year grading was always brutal for teachers. Before they hung up, he said, "Love you," and she answered the same. But the warmth didn't follow. The next morning, Maya wheeled her father out into the garden. They sat without speaking for several minutes, listening to wind rustle the hedges. Finally, he spoke. "You ever wonder why your mother never got close to your friends?" She blinked, confused. "What?" He shook his head, eyes fixed ahead. "Some things are better left unknown, Maya." She didn't respond. It felt like a jab thrown in the dark. Later, she would replay it in her head 100 times. That evening, she walked into the kitchen to find Olivia wiping her face, the unmistakable edge of tears still glistening. "Allergies," she said quickly, then turned away. Maya didn't push. But her gut whispered otherwise. When she finally called Janet to vent, her best friend didn't offer sympathy. She offered a warning. "I saw Eric at the bookstore last weekend," Janet said. "He said he was swamped with school stuff, but he wasn't carrying papers. He wasn't dressed for work." Maya's stomach flipped. "You think he is?" "I don't know. But his energy felt off, Maya." "And your mom, has she been acting strange?" Maya laughed it off, but it wasn't real. Later, in bed, her mother's strange glances during dinner looped in her head. So did Thomas's cryptic words. The next day, Maya offered to help her mother organize the attic. It was dusty and filled with forgotten years. She found a box labeled Spring 1995 and opened it. Among yellowed notebooks and yearbooks, there was a photo. Her mother, smiling in a field beside a young man. Maya's heart stuttered. "He looked like Eric. It was absurd," she told herself. Coincidence. Family resemblances happened. Still, she kept the photo. That night, she stared at it under her phone light, memorizing the curve of the man's jaw, the slope of his nose. It wasn't a perfect match, but it was close enough to haunt her. The next morning, while cleaning dishes, Olivia's phone buzzed. A message flashed briefly across the screen before disappearing. Maya caught the words, "I miss our talks." The sender's name was hidden behind a heart emoji. She didn't say anything. Her father's health wasn't the only thing that felt brittle now. The house had become a museum of questions. And Maya was beginning to feel like an uninvited guest in her own past. At dinner, Thomas said little. Olivia smiled too tightly. When Maya asked about her dad's physical therapy, he simply said, "What's the point? Some things don't heal." Something inside her shifted. That night, she couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, remembering a time she came home from high school to find her mom crying in the bathroom. She'd assumed it was stress. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe everything she'd believed was wrong. Janet's final text came as she lay in the dark. "You ever think you're not the one being lied to, but the one they're protecting the lie from?" Maya didn't respond, because something in her already knew. This wasn't about recovery. This was about revelation. And it had only just begun. The photo stayed in Maya's bag for 2 days before she brought it up. She studied it constantly, flipping between rational explanations and the gnawing instinct that something wasn't right. The man standing next to Olivia looked too much like Eric. Same dimples, same smile that pulled slightly higher on one side. And Olivia's expression, carefree, affectionate, was not how she looked in most family photos. It was intimate. Maya finally showed it to her father. He didn't flinch. He took one look and said, "I hoped you'd never find that." She waited for him to explain, but he just left the room. Later, when Maya asked Olivia about the man in the photo, her mother paused. That was a long time ago. Just a friend from the past. The answer was practiced. She didn't look Maya in the EYE.AT dinner that night. Thomas's fork clattered on his plate. He looked directly at Maya and said, "If you really knew who Eric was, you'd stop defending him so blindly." Olivia froze. Maya asked what he meant, but he pushed his chair back and walked out. Olivia followed, whispering sharply. The door shut between them. Maya went to her childhood room, opened her laptop, and logged into their cloud account. She remembered Eric once connected his phone to their shared folder by mistake. He never removed it. Scrolling past vacation photos and work documents, one file stood out. A short video. She played it. Eric's voice. Her parents' living room. The timestamp was from 4 months ago, before Maya had even told him she planned to visit. In the background, a woman laughed. Her mother. The audio was low, but enough. "I told you this would get complicated," Eric said. "You should have stopped it." "Don't talk like that," Olivia replied. "You think I don't feel guilt?" Maya's chest tightened. She replayed it twice, then closed the laptop, her hands shaking. She confronted her mother that night. No anger, just blunt. "How long did it go on?" Olivia went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You do." "I found the video." Silence stretched. Then Olivia broke. Her voice was flat. "It started before you met him. Years ago. He was a student teacher at the school. We were lost. Your father and I hadn't spoken in months." Maya couldn't believe it. "Did it end?" "Yes," Olivia said. "Before you and Eric ever became serious." Maya stared at her. "So when I introduced him, what? You pretended you didn't know him?" "I didn't know what to do. I thought it would fade. That you'd lose interest. But then he fell for you. And you were happy?" "I didn't want to ruin that." "You didn't want to ruin it for me?" Maya said, her voice sharp. "You think this wasn't already rot from the start?" "I thought he changed," Olivia whispered. Maya walked away. In her room, the memories flooded back. Olivia praising Eric too quickly. The strange hesitation in Eric's voice when he met Thomas. Her father's hostility, which never made sense, until now. It wasn't disapproval. It was disgust. The next day, Maya found her father on the back porch. He was silent for a long time before finally saying, "I found out about them right after you started dating. I was going to tell you. But then I saw you smile the night he took you to prom. You looked alive. You let me marry him," Maya whispered. "I didn't have the strength to blow it up. I thought, maybe he really does love her. Maybe it's a second chance." Maya didn't answer. She couldn't. She messaged Eric that night. Told him she needed to talk. Said nothing else. Janet called, but Maya ignored it. She didn't need advice. She needed truth. Every part of her body felt tight, like she'd been holding her breath since the moment she stepped foot in that house. She opened the photo again. Olivia and the man who looked like Eric, laughing like it meant something. Maybe it always did. Maya had been standing in the middle of a storm disguised as family. And now that the winds were finally clearing, everything she trusted looked like debris. This wasn't just betrayal, this was betrayal shaped like love. Carefully folded. Hidden in plain sight. And she was the last one to know. Eric arrived the next afternoon, suitcase in hand, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Maya met him in the hallway, arms crossed, her voice flat. "How long have you known my mother?" He blinked. "What?" "Don't play dumb. I found the video." Eric's face drained of color. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Finally, he exhaled. "It was before us. I swear." Maya nodded slowly. "How long did it last?" He looked down. "A year. Maybe a little more." "Did you end it before we started dating?" Eric hesitated. "Just before. So when I told you I wanted you to meet my parents, you already knew her. And you still smiled like it was the first time." "I didn't know what to do," he said. "I panicked. But Maya, I fell in love with you. That was real. I swear to God. You lied the entire time." "I didn't know how to come clean," he said. "Your mom said it would destroy you. She thought if we buried it, it would die." Maya's laugh came out hollow. "You thought you were protecting me?" "I was trying to protect what we had." She stared at him. "You loved both of us." He flinched. From the next room, Olivia stepped in. She looked tired, like the years had finally caught up to her. "I never wanted it to go this far." Maya turned. "You never wanted me to know. That's what you mean." "I was weak," Olivia said. "And selfish." I justified it because your father and I were already broken. But when I saw you and Eric together, I told him to stop everything. To let it go. He said he had. Maya's voice was ice. And when I told you I loved him? When I brought him to dinner? You just smiled. I told myself it was over. You watched me fall in love with your secret. Eric stepped forward. I thought time would fix it. That if I was good to you, it would erase what happened. Maya shook her head. You were never good. You were guilty. And you acted like that was the same thing. No one spoke for several seconds. The room pulsed with the weight of words that could never be undone. Thomas entered, moving slowly. He looked at Maya with eyes that held more sorrow than strength. I should have told you everything, he said. When I found out, I was ready to walk out. But then I saw how happy you were. You'd had such a rough childhood in this house. I thought if I stayed, it would keep some illusion alive. Maya felt something inside her break. So you all just decided for me, she said. You made a pact of silence and thought that would protect me? I thought it was the last thing I could do as your father, Thomas whispered. I thought maybe I owed you that. You owed me honesty. She left the room, climbed the stairs, and began packing. Slowly. Without rush. Olivia followed her, voice shaking. I know you hate me. I deserve it. But please don't leave like this. Maya zipped the bag. I don't hate you. I just can't you know what I know. And I won't stay where love is just a mask people wear to excuse their decisions. You can't just walk away from your marriage. I'm not walking away from a marriage. I'm walking away from a performance. Eric stood at the bottom of the stairs. Maya, please. Let's talk. We can go to therapy. Start over. She looked at him. Start over from what? Lies? You didn't make a mistake, Eric. You made a life out of hiding. He reached for her, but she stepped back. Downstairs, Thomas sat quietly. Maya placed her wedding ring on the table beside him. You did what you thought was right. But all it did was delay the truth. And truth, when buried, always finds a way to rot everything around it. He nodded, tears in his eyes. Outside, the wind had picked up. Leaves scattered across the porch. The house stood still, but something inside had shifted forever. At the station, Maya sat alone, suitcase at her side. No calls. No texts. Just silence. She closed her eyes. I came home to help him heal, she thought. But he wasn't the one who needed healing. I was. And the cure was truth, no matter how ugly it looked. The train arrived. She stood, stepped in, and didn't look back. Some stories don't end with forgiveness. They end with freedom. 3 months passed. Maya didn't tell anyone where she went after leaving. No texts. No posts. She needed space that wasn't filled with other people's choices. She rented a studio apartment in Asheville, started volunteering at a local clinic, and changed her number. Solitude became her sanctuary. Every morning, she walked to a cafe with a journal under her arm, and every night, she reminded herself that silence wasn't loneliness, it was clarity. Her lawyer called once. The divorce papers had been served. Eric didn't contest anything. No pleading. No confrontation. Just a signature. That told her everything. Not that he'd given up, but that he knew he had no right to ask her to stay. Some damage is beyond negotiation. One morning, she received a letter. No return address, but she recognized the handwriting. Olivia. She almost threw it away, but something in her made her read it. I don't expect forgiveness, it began. But I want you to know I've told your father everything. I've told the truth to myself. For the first time in decades. The silence in our home didn't begin with the affair. It began the day I chose comfort over honesty. I thought I was shielding you. I was just protecting myself from your eyes. Maya folded the letter and didn't reply. Later that week, she saw Janet's name pop up in a new email. Just checking in, it read. I don't need to know anything. Just want you to know I'm still here. Maya smiled for the first time in days. She wrote back, simply, thank you. Still finding my breath. One evening, while watching the rain from her window, a thought hit her, how easily love can be rewritten. How stories that feel true in the moment can be exposed as something else entirely when time lifts the curtain. What she had with Eric wasn't love. It was a performance. But it was wrapped so tightly in shared dreams and familiar routines that she mistook it for real. That was the hardest part to accept, not that he betrayed her, but that she had spent so long convincing herself it was happiness. The guilt wasn't hers, but the grief was. She started therapy. Not to fix herself, but to understand why she ignored the small signs. why she allowed certain silences to feel normal. Her therapist said something that stayed with her: children raised in quiet tension often confuse calm with safety. That landed hard. Her childhood hadn't been full of screaming or slamming doors. Just cold dinners and thin smiles. Her father's silence wasn't strength, it was retreat. Her mother's brightness wasn't warmth, it was distraction. And Maya, unknowingly, built her adult life on that same foundation. Quiet. Predictable. Deceptive. One afternoon, she took out the old photo again. Olivia and the man who looked like Eric. It no longer triggered rage. Just understanding. A cycle that started before her and had tried to pull her under. But she had stepped away. She wrote her own letter. Not to send, but to say what needed saying. You both taught me something. Not about love, but about truth. That love without honesty is control. That protecting someone from pain by hiding reality is not protection, it's manipulation. I forgive you, but I don't trust you. I forgive you, but I can't return. And I'm okay with that. She folded the paper and left it in her journal. Weeks turned into months. She picked up new hobbies. Learned how to cook for one. Laughed at small things again. The space she once feared, being alone, became her healing ground. Not because time erased the hurt, but because it gave her the power to define what came next. One day, she saw a couple laughing over coffee at the same cafe she visited each morning. The woman's hand brushed the man's cheek. It wasn't grand. Just real. Maya didn't feel envy. She felt hope. That one day, maybe, she'd experience something like that. Honest. Unearned. Simple, not born from secrets. Not tangled in history. Her story hadn't ended with confrontation. It ended with awareness. With her leaving behind a version of herself that once accepted less just to feel loved, and now, without pretending, without waiting for apologies, she began again. Not rebuilt from what was broken, but born from what she finally understood.